Hey chums, welcome back to a Game with Chums podcast. I'm your host, Paulus, or Paul, or Paulie C, or Paulie D, or just Big Man. Whatever name, a nickname, an alias anyone wants to give me. So, with me as always is my reliable sidekick, Mr. Raws, Rory B, Rory D, Rory Jizzy C. But yeah, Mr. Raws, how you been? What you been doing? What you been playing? Tell me
How's
about
it
your
going,
life.
chums? What have I been doing? Well, we're kind of more or less out of lockdown as of sort of tomorrow. I think like pubs are opening back up and stuff, but I've still been staying in and keeping to myself. As you can see, I'm now a professional podcaster, so that's some.
Yeah, you got a boom arm.
That's some progress. Got a boom arm for the mic that I bought like 2 months ago and haven't used yet, and finally got a new webcam, so I'm not using my phone anymore.
I can hear the quality of the mic. It's a big improvement over what you had, because you were just using your phone before, right? And your headset.
Using my phone and a headset, and it was annoying. It was probably annoying everyone, but it was annoying me as well because it was just a bit pikey.
From what I can hear, your audio sounds a lot warmer and a lot more clearer and crisp.
Warm and dulcet.
Yeah, it does. You have a deep voice, Roars. You have a very sort of deep and imposing voice, which I don't think really came across on the podcast because of obviously with the headset quality. But with your better mic, it really sounds nice. It sounds like Orson Welles kind of sounding.
Oh, wonderful. Yeah. This isn't even that great a mic. This is like a 25 quid mic.
Hey, man. Hey, it's got good reviews.
25 quid mic, 15 quid boom arm, 15 quid webcam. Still doing it in the cheap ghetto style.
Still, but moving up slightly, you know.
Moving up in the world.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what have I been doing other than trying to make myself look like I know what I'm doing on this podcast? Staying in. Doing a bit of work. Still playing Near Replicant, which is there on the shelf. Coming up on the first ending now, so fair way into it. There were 4 endings in the original. They've added a new one now, so I'm going to go through and do all 5 endings. So probably today or tomorrow I'll probably get to ending A. What have I been watching? I can't remember if I mentioned this last time, but I've been marathoning Ruby because I kind of fell behind. So I'm finally on the latest season of that. It's about it, really. Really, really exciting.
Wow, what exciting life
playing Nier and watching Ruby.
Okay, cool.
What about you?
Myself? Like now that lockdown has been, the restrictions have been easing and everything's opening up again. I mean, like the pubs were allowing people to meet up outside, so any place with a pub garden they were allowed to open with. You had to like book tables. So I've been out a couple of times on dates, you know.
Ooh, saucy.
There you are. I've had 3 in the last 3 weeks. So yeah, that's been keeping me busy.
Over here.
Yeah,
check this guy out.
It's got to be done. I don't want to big myself up, but yeah, it's just one of those things. And what have I been watching? Besides copious amounts of YouTube videos, I've been watching Invincible. I think we spoke about this on the last podcast. It's like it's an animated series based on a comic. Very good. I would recommend it. It's not for the faint of heart. It's quite graphic, but it's good. It's fun. It's funny. It's good. It's like sort of quite meta. What I've been playing.
Things.
Yeah, I would recommend if you got Amazon Prime, give it a watch. It's about 40 minutes, 45 minutes each episode, so it's quite meaty. It's very entertaining. What I've been playing, besides the topic we're going to talk about, which is Mass Effect, I've been playing like Apex Legends. Bit too much, I think. I did a live stream moments before this podcast, and near the end, I was getting visibly frustrated. It's one of those things where you start well, and then you reach a plateau.
And starts to spiral.
Starts to spiral, and then you sort of have.
And you don't know when to quit.
Yeah, you sort of have to sit back and go, look, I'm not doing myself any good here. I sort of got to stop playing and give myself a break.
I do that on Halo multiplayer all the time. I have a really bad game, get pissed off, and think, all right, I'm going to have another one. This one's going to be better. Then that one's worse, and then you just keep going, and making yourself more and more wound up.
You just got to sort of have a break, have a cup of tea,
have a Kit Kat.
Yeah, and just
the chocolate biscuits are available.
Have a bourbon. I do like a good bourbon.
Custard cream.
Custard creams are good. Yeah, I used to really like wagon wheels. You know, like, have you ever had you remember wagon wheels?
There's no jam in a wagon wheel these days. I swear there used to be jam in a wagon wheel when I was a kid.
There was a little
bit in the middle.
There was that cream
marshmallow.
Yeah, I think there was a jam on top of it, like on top of the
Sure
marshmallow.
I'm sure there was a little bit of jam in the middle.
But yeah, now like
it's one of the conspiracy.
I was thinking, oh, like a wagon wheel. I really want a wagon wheel. I haven't had a wagon wheel, and it's like just a big chocolate wheel with like
biscuit and marshmallow.
Biscuit and marshmallow. It's fucking great. And yeah, so I've been playing Apex,
eating wagon wheels,
going on dates because apparently I'm a Casanova. Just working and playing too much Apex, but yeah, like, so that's how things are going. I'm glad everything's opening up because, like yourself, you've been fully vaccinated.
Mm-hmm.
I'm getting my vaccination at the end of May, my first one. So then my second one's not until August, so that's a 2-month gap. So, but hopefully, like once I get that done, everyone can meet up and we can start living our lives again.
Yeah, I had 3 months between mine. My first one was in January, and then the second one was in April.
All right.
But thankfully, they're both done and sorted now.
Yeah, but yeah. So once that's all done, and hopefully we get to go to some conventions and meet up and go on some adventures. Because, like, I think we mentioned,
do you miss conventions? We did a whole podcast about it.
Yeah, I think we mentioned in one of our podcasts that we had an idea for a video about going into a place in Croydon called Play and setting ourselves a challenge to buy a game for X amount of money and making a video of it. So hopefully we can do that once everything opens up, and obviously we'll do our convention videos and stuff like that because they do really well. But yeah, so that's our lives, Mr. Ross.
Terribly exciting.
Next topic is gaming news. What has been happening in the world of gaming? Have we got any stories? Have we got any spice? Have we got any? Do we know it? Has there been any news?
Has anything happened?
Has anything happened? For love of Christ!
I think this came out around about the time we recorded the last one, or maybe just after. But PlayStation and Discord are entering into a bit of a relationship, which I think surprised a lot of people because the last thing people had heard about Discord was that Microsoft were looking at buying them, and then that kind of fell through for whatever reason. And the next thing you hear is they've announced a deal with PlayStation. I think PlayStation have acquired a minority stake in them, like a small stake, and they're doing some kind of integration with PlayStation Network. I guess they were very sort of surface level on the details when they announced it. They didn't really say much of anything other than, hey, we're going to do some things and stuff. So not much to say about that, but maybe a bit of a surprise given that Microsoft were apparently in fairly advanced talks to buy them. Or what was it, like 10 billion or something they were looking at? I can't even remember now.
Ridiculous
Crazy
amount
money.
Of money. Ridiculous amount of money. Yeah, that was like Twitter sort of blew up over that. A lot of people against it. Obviously, PlayStation fans very for, and they like to rub it into people's faces that this is happening. It reminded me of when the last gen, when PlayStation made a deal with Spotify, and Spotify was on their system exclusively for like 2 or 3 years or something. It was the app, isn't it? It was like fully integrated to the PlayStation. A lot of they were like, oh, we got Spotify as well. We can play music and stuff. So cool.
It was a games console, guys.
Yeah, but so it looks like they made a deal, and the deal's it's coming through next. It's gonna. I don't think they get the app until
the end of the year. I think
end of the year or start of 2022. So maybe that's an exclusive deal. I'm pretty sure, like Discord wouldn't limit themselves just to PlayStation because
I
obviously
doubt it. I mean,
no.
they already have some limited integration on Xbox anyway.
Yeah.
Like you can link your accounts, and then your Discord status will say like playing blah 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 on Xbox. So there's already some sort of low level kind of, or high level rather, integration there. So when this came out, people were like, is this just going to be like the Xbox thing where it just says what you're playing when you're on Discord? But I don't know. The fact that they've, I think they have, I might be wrong here, I think they've acquired a small stake in them. So maybe you would assume that kind of integration will go a bit deeper, but not a massive deal to me, really. I mean, we use Discord every day anyway.
Yeah. Can use it on our phones, on our laptops and stuff like that. So
yeah,
computers.
So if it was on PlayStation, yeah, it'd be a nice bonus.
Yeah,
Not just either of us have a PS5 yet.
I don't think anyone has a PS5. No, apparently, like the stock issues are going to carry on until next year. It's ridiculous. Really
it's the same
stupid.
with GPUs as well.
Yeah.
Been putting money aside for a 3080, and there's just, unless you got $2,000 to pay a scalper, you're shit out of luck.
Yeah. So games been released. Resident Evil Village got released last week. From the time of this podcast,
seems to be good.
Seems to be good. I've watched a few videos. It kind of reminds me of Resident Evil 4, but with darker tones. Like it's set in a village, which was same as Resident Evil. It has quite a lot of camp in it, which Resident Evil 4 was very campy.
Very campy, yeah.
But this seems to take itself more seriously, and it seems to have a bit more of a darker tone.
Yeah. Someone I know that was playing it said, "Oh, it's like Resident Evil 4. If Resident Evil 4 and Resident Evil 7 got like smushed together." I was like, "Oh, interesting." Yeah. I still haven't played 7 yet, so
well,
get around to it at some point.
Get around to that, mate, because that's a good game. I really like.
Yeah, it's just being I'm kind of not that interested in first-person horror games, which is why it put me off. I will eventually force myself to play it because everyone says it's really good. So.
Another game got released. Was it? It's a PlayStation 4, I want to say 5 exclusive. Returnal.
Yeah, Returnal from Housemarque.
Is it like a roguelike dungeon crawler or something like that? With
yeah, by the looks of it, with like 4-hour long runs and no saving, which people have been getting upset about. I think it looks really good, but I don't have a PS5, so I can't play it.
Yeah,
people are also mad that it's £50, and like this team is a pretty small indie team, and all their games were like top-down twin stick shooters before, so people are a bit mad. I mean, I think any game at £70 is fucking mad. I wouldn't be paying that for anything. I mean, like, I think the most expensive like normal version of a game I've bought is Last of Us Part 2, and that was like what, £54 or something I got it for. And even that, I was like, fucking hell, that's expensive.
Did we mention
is mad.
Did we mention on the last podcast about Last of Us 2 that it's getting Last of Us? It's getting a remake. Did we mention that? The last podcast.
I think we did.
I think we did. Yeah. So we don't have to go over that. Okay. Okay. So that's the games that've been released. No scandals. No. No Xbox trying to acquire more studios, which they're still in the market.
Wait for E3.
They're still in the market.
Wait till next month, and we'll see what happens.
We'll see how many people they can upset by acquiring. Because when people like a lot of people are upset that they acquired Bethesda and the games are going to be exclusive on Xbox and PC, and then the same fans who were fans of the games are now saying that their games were rubbish anyway. They were buggy. They were terrible. They didn't really work very well.
It happens. I mean, it happened with Hellblade as well. I remember, because I post on Reset Air a fair bit, and I remember every Hellblade thread, like before Ninja Theory were bought, was really positive, and people were like, "Oh, the game's so good. Yeah, the combat's okay, but it's not the focus of it, and it looks amazing. The story's great. The performance is incredible. Make sure you wear headphones when you play it." Every time it was announced for a new platform, people were like, "Oh yeah, go out and go play it, guys. It's so good." And then as soon as Microsoft bought Ninja Theory, it just changed completely. And then like when Hellblade 2 was announced, and people were like, there were some people going, "Oh my god, it looks so good," and others going, first one kind of sucked anyway. It was overrated. So who's even excited?
Yeah.
Just like I get that you're going to be upset if the console you don't own buys a developer and locks you out of games. That's completely understandable. if you're going to be upset about that. But like pretending you hate games that you like just because you're annoyed about it is just really silly. But anyway, on a lighter note, it was Final Fantasy 14 Fan Fest this weekend, all digital, of course, because this is still a pandemic world. And it was supposed to be in London. I was going to go. I was so excited. And
by yourself?
Well, me and one of the people I play with, who's in my free company. I like Final Fantasy 14. I've got my job icon tattooed on my wrist. That's upside down, but never mind. But yeah, so the Fan Fest was this weekend, and they announced the release date for the next expansion, which is coming out in November. So I'm excited about that. So there's some positivity to end on for the news section.
No.
How about that?
Oh, that's good, Mr. Ross. Yeah, I'm very happy for you. Yeah, for the audio listeners, Mr. Ross has a tattoo of what have you got a tattoo on your stuff again? Something Final Fantasy?
It's the job icon that
job icon
for the class I play.
For the class, which class is it you play? It's just so they can
White Mage. I'm a very benevolent healer.
Yeah. Okay. So
just go around looking after people. It's just who I am.
One thing before we get into the main topic, are you having at the time of the recording? It's about just gone past 6 o'clock in the afternoon UK time. Are you having anything to drink? Tea, gin,
I am
whiskey?
Not. I had a nice cup of tea just before we started. So that did me. How about you?
I'm drinking currently. For the audio listeners, I'm holding up. If my camera can pick it up, if it doesn't phase out of existence, I'm holding a jug of beer. I'm drinking like just a Heineken. You know, watched a bit of football. My local football soccer team for American listeners.
Sorry, we're not having that.
Football team. My team played and we won, so I just had a couple of drinks before, and of course, when I was live streaming, I know I always tend to like crack open a beer when I'm live streaming, just for the sake of it. Sort of relaxes me a bit, because I tend to like when I live stream struggle when it's not when you're by yourself. You struggle to what to say to keep it interesting. So I
need a bit of social lubrication.
Yeah, I just need a bit of something like that. I'm not like just to, like loosen the tongue, but just make me more comfortable. But yeah. So, but today's main topic of the podcast is the aforementioned Mass Effect. Mass Effect has just had a release, which is called the Legendary Edition, which is all 3 games, including all the DLC for each game, been released for current gen consoles. Both for both Mr. Ross and myself are massive Mass Effect fans. Have been since the first game was released back in 2005, I believe. 2007 on the 360 and PS3 era. Yep. No, it wasn't even released on PS3, was it? It was released on. It was an exclusive.
It was 360 exclusive for a year, and then it was on PC in 2008, I think, and it didn't hit PS3 until 2012, I think.
Right. So
they did the trilogy box set re-release, didn't they, on both platforms? I think that was the first time when Mass Effect 1 came to PS3. Because I think the publishing agreement was 5 years, so for 5 years it could only be on Xbox.
Because this is the time when Xbox and BioWare had a sort of an agreement. They were all the games were coming out on Xbox. So you had Jade Empire, you had Knights of the Old Republic, and you had Mass Effect. There you are. There you go. The first one.
Collector's edition. If the camera can pick it up, signed by Mark Meer.
Oh yeah, Mark Meer.
That should give you some indication of what big fans we are.
Just before we get into it, we met Mark Meer, the voice actor of Commander Shepard, at MCM. We all got some signed memorabilia by him, and we were also wearing a T-shirt with Mark Meer's face called "We'll Bang," which is a joke. Which is
okay.
We'll Bang, okay, because was it on Machinima?
Game of Poop.
Game Poop, which was on Machinima, and Machinima doesn't exist anymore. So it was basically like it was like an edited sort of comedy style of the Mass Effect. They did other games as well, which they sort of edit the audio so they're saying crude and funny things. I believe the videos can still be viewed, but they're viewed.
I'm sure they're still up. Yeah,
they're still there. But the guy who created it, I think he was called Manslayer. That's the YouTube channel. The guy who created it for Machinima, he's still on his channel. So yeah,
it was just a running bit where there'd be like a tender moment, and Shepard would be like, "Hey, well bang, okay."
Yeah.
So we got T-shirts printed up with a picture of Mark Mir on the front and well bang, okay.
Yeah, I just
and
remember
then went to the signing.
Yeah. And he knows that. He was like, "Oh yeah, cool."
He saw us in the like halfway down the queue, and he pointed at us and started laughing.
Yeah. Yeah. So we're massive fans of Mass Effect. Like I said, I think we mentioned on one of our podcasts about our favorite studios, and I think mine was BioWare. You know, like so we like I said, we've always been fans of BioWare. BioWare is a very good studio. I want to say that in the past tense was a very good studio, but we'll get into that a bit more. But yeah, the game's been released. Have you played it, Mr. Ross? Have you played
I haven't yet. I installed it, and it took all day to install for some reason.
It installs, then you've got to go into the game and install the other two.
2 and 3.
Yeah, I didn't realize that because I've made a video of that for our YouTube channel. Go and check it out. It's called a quick look Mass Effect Legendary Edition, all prologues. Go and check that out. It's where I play each prologue of each game. It's all edited down into one video. But yeah, like before I was going, I'm going to record this now, and then I was like, oh, I got to install 2 and 3. I thought that was all installed in one go. But anyway, yeah.
Yeah, I haven't dived into it yet because, as I mentioned earlier, I'm still playing Nier, and Nier is a fairly big game. Mass Effect is a big game. I kind of want to get Nier done first.
Well, let's talk about
into another one.
Let's talk about let's start off with Mass Effect 1 and memories of it, and like our sort of we're going to talk. It's going to be very like this is a very nostalgic. It's more of a celebration of Mass Effect because I think Mass Effect it was a pinnacle of like action RPGs, and recent times it's sort of gone downhill. Obviously with Mass Effect 3 and Andromeda, it's sort of taking a hit.
Sucked.
Yeah. But yeah, like that, like we said, that came out exclusively for the Xbox 360 in 2007. And I remember it was like they were showcasing a lot of the tech demos of it, everything like that. And I was like, wow, this looks pretty cool. And but yeah, what was did you play when it first got released, or did you wait like a few months or a year, like some people do, because it was a new IP, and obviously, like maybe people weren't too familiar with BioWare, because I think BioWare was just coming into the forefront. Obviously, they had a couple of successes with Knights of the Republic. Jade Empire wasn't as well received, but Mass Effect was, I think, was the game that sort of put them on the world stage as the forefront the forefront of RPG games developers.
Yeah, so I pre-ordered it, which kind of had to because I got the collector's edition. That disappeared very quickly. So I managed to pre-order it, and I think it was a very savvy move on Microsoft's part because they had, as you say, KOTOR and Jade Empire on the original Xbox as well. They were both console exclusives, and I think both were actually timed exclusives as well. I think they both came out later on PC, just like Mass Effect did. And so Microsoft had kind of got their OG Xbox audience acquainted with BioWare. And that was like before that, they were making like Baldur's Gate and Neverwinter Nights and stuff, and like hardcore PC RPGs. And so KOTOR was kind of like them sort of dipping the foot into the console space. And I think the people that played KOTOR loved it because it was something like the console audience had never seen anything like that. And not only sort of that style of game, but the fact that it was a really good Star Wars story. And yeah, I think it was very
Mm.
savvy for Microsoft to then sort of like do the same thing with Mass Effect, and kind of like, oh, they're making a new IP, and it's going to be a Space Odyssey RPG as well. So let's get in on the ground with that.
Was Mass Effect the first RPG? I can't, maybe I'm probably wrong about this, but where the protagonist was fully voiced, every word of dialogue was spoken. Because normally with Bioware games, I'm pretty sure it's with a lot of RPGs at the time. The protagonist was a silent protagonist. He never spoke the words that you selected. Am I right about that? Can you think of anything, or am I completely wrong?
I don't know, to be honest with you. I've only played bits and pieces of the Baldur's Gate games, and I can't remember, but I don't think the protagonist speaks. And then KOTOR and Jade Empire definitely don't.
Yeah, but I'm thinking like in terms of
general.
RPGs, yeah, I don't think any of the protagonists, maybe The Witcher and stuff like that. Obviously, that he was fully voiced and stuff.
Yeah,
so,
that was the same year, as Mass Effect 1. Witcher 1 came out.
That kind of got overlooked though, but that's like...
Well, it was PC only, so it was kind of out a little bit outside of the more mainstream, I suppose. They were supposed to be making a console port, but apparently the company that they outsourced it to weren't doing very well, and CD Projekt shut it down. But yeah, I can't think of any off the top of my head that had voiced protagonists, to be honest. I mean, even now it's kind of not a rare thing, but you've got like Bethesda, even up to Skyrim didn't do it. Your protagonist is silent in Skyrim, Fallout 3, and Fallout 4 was the first one where they sort of went and did that, and people didn't like it.
I quite liked it. I never liked a silent protagonist. I've never really been into that. I'd rather have them speak, even if it's
same.
Yeah, people go, well, they want to be more immersed. They want to feel like they're the ones in the game. I'm just like, well, I've always wanted the protagonist to be more fleshed out. To be honest, I didn't want them to be a blank landscape.
Generally not that much of a fan of silent protagonists. I much prefer them to talk, even if they don't say exactly what I want them to say. At least they're at least they feel like a character.
Yeah.
And I'm just thinking about it now, like Dragon Age 1, your character was silent as well. And that came out after Mass Effect.
Came out in 2009, I think.
2009, 2010, somewhere around there.
I think it came out late 2009 because I do remember playing that late 2009. Then a year later, in 2011, Dragon Age 2 came out, which had a very rushed development and stuff, which is another game that's underrated. I stand by that game. I think that game is really underrated. Really good game. It is a gem. You know, like it's not a polished game by any means, and there's some problems with it, but I think it's better than most quite a lot of RPGs that were released at that time.
Yeah, sort of in hindsight, a lot of people point to sort of point to that and say, oh, this is like that was like the start of the downturn for BioWare. But I think any problems you have with Dragon Age 2, and you can have problems with it, they reused a lot of content, but that's on EA as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
I liked what BioWare tried to do with it. I thought it was a good game.
Before we get any further, I have to make a full disclosure. My company that I work for, one of our clients is EA, so I can't say anything bad about EA. So
I'll do it.
You can do it, but I'm not. I won't say anything bad
roll
about
my sleeves up.
Yeah, get stuck in there, and I'll just be quiet. But let's go back to Mass Effect. Like out of all three of the games, I'm pretty confident on what your answer is going to be. Which one was your favorite?
Mass Effect 1.
Mass Effect 1. I did mention that on our YouTube video that Mass Effect 1 was yours and I favorite one out of all of them. Mass Effect 2 is a better game, like technically, like the gameplay's better. It's more of a sort of like
as a game,
technically and visually it's better. But as an RPG, Mass Effect 1 is just a better RPG because it is an RPG. It's how it is. It's just an RPG with like it had janky combat. Let's face it, but it was still an RPG. Mass Effect 2 was more. It was like in the transition sort of thing. It focused more on its combat, and stripped away its RPG elements. And Mass Effect 3, I thought, was a very good shooter with RPG elements in it.
The way
Yeah.
I look at it is Mass Effect 1 is an action RPG. Mass Effect 2 is a third-person shooter with RPG elements.
Really? Oh, okay.
Mass Effect 3 is a third-person shooter with some abilities.
With some yeah, because like playing when I played all three prologues, you could really tell the difference. It really can tell the difference, even in the first 20 minutes of each one. Because I remember that when I was editing down the video of each prologue, I was like, oh man, the most editing I had to do was Mass Effect 1 because it had so much dialogue. It's just very dialogue heavy, and the dialogue wheel, which I never realized that was a patented of BioWare.
Yeah.
The dialogue wheel was patented, and I never realized that. But that BioWare actually patented that too, so they're the only ones who can use this sort of dialogue wheel. But yeah, you go into that. It's very it starts off slow, even though there is action in the Eden Prime.
Eden Prime,
yeah, but it's very dialogue heavy. I mean, you can go and talk to various other characters and have like 10 to 15 minutes if you go through every dialogue option of conversation with them. Obviously, I rushed through that just to get down to Eden Prime because otherwise the video would have been an hour long. But when I played 2, there was still dialogue. It was still dialogue, but it was straight into it. It was very action.
Then I will say though, the intro to Mass Effect 2 is so good.
So I
don't want to look like I'm slating it because I think it's an amazing game. Just one is just my favorite for some reasons, which I'm sure we'll touch on.
And then you can tell that the main focus was on combat in 2, and 3 was just action. And then I mentioned it. I looked. I was like, wow, because I think I can speak for both of us when we first played. Going, wow, where's the dialogue? Like you had 2 like dialogue choices, and like in some
cut loads of them. It's like the whole wheel was like a spider in the other 2 games, and then Mass Effect 2, it's like that. Mass Effect 3 rather.
Yeah, it's just like 2 options.
It's like nice guy, asshole. Yeah. Those are your options.
They wanted you. It was very streamlined. They wanted you to get to the combat and to the action and to the set pieces. What it was just like bam, bam, bang. We'll hit you with everything. Which I still like Mass Effect 3. Don't get me wrong.
I genuinely think it's a really good game.
Really, honestly, but I think it's out of the whole trilogy. It's the weakest of the 3. But it's still good.
It's the weakest of the Mass Effect series in the way that I'd say like Halo 2 is the weakest of the original Halo trilogy. Doesn't mean I think it's bad. I still think it's a really good game, but the other 2 are better.
Yeah.
Mass Effect 1 for me is better because I just think it's got a better story for one.
It got better antagonist as well.
Better antagonist, yeah. Saren was good. Saren, and then spoilers, Sovereign after that. But also, the fact that it was doing the whole world building thing. It was creating the universe that the rest of the games take place in. It just resonated a lot better with me.
I mean, with Mass Effect 1, they had the codex, and you can go in and you can like click. There was like all hidden bits and pieces throughout the world that you click on, and the dialogue, not just it was like loads of dialogue, but a lot of the dialogue was fully voiced. So it was flashing out the world.
2185. Yeah.
And I think in Mass Effect 2 they had that, but it was very short, like paragraphs. Mass Effect 3 didn't have anything. I don't think, just very small, like 4 or 5 sentences.
Like, I'd imagine they probably had data that showed that like 3% of people even looked at the codex and stuff.
Well, I read the code.
Probably like you, me, and like a handful of other people.
I listened to. I completed Mass Effect 1 probably about 4 to 5 times, and with Mass Effect 1, you can do a new game plus. I'm pretty sure you can do that with the other 2 as well. So you can just carry over your abilities and your leveling.
Which you needed to do if you wanted to reach the level cap, because you couldn't hit the level cap on the first playthrough on the original.
The level cap was 60, wasn't it? I think
it was 50 on your first playthrough and then 60 on an NG plus. Yeah. So you had to roll that character again to get to 60.
But another thing, like now let's praise Mass Effect Trilogy as a whole for your ability to carry over your saves, your choices to each game. Even though like 3, people would say the ending, but we'll discuss that in a bit. But yeah, that was. I think that was. Can you think of any other game series that allow you to carry over your choices, your abilities?
Honestly, the only one I can think of that even comes close is another BioWare series, and that's Dragon Age. That lets you carry over like world state and stuff between games. And obviously, you couldn't do that with Inquisition because it was on a whole different generation.
You had to use that Dragon
Age Keep.
Yeah, I remember that. That was good though. I thought that was
I enjoyed using that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I can't think of any others that actually do. Like games have kind of dabbled with it in the past, like Shenmue on the Dreamcast let you carry over collectibles and stuff like that to Shenmue 2 if you had the save on your system. I think it let you carry over like your money and like your capsule toys and stuff, but nothing like to the scale of Mass Effect. Like people give BioWare a lot of shit for not honoring their choices, as they would say, in regards to the ending, which we'll come to. But I do not envy them the task of having to carry all those decisions over because there's so much stuff. And it must have been like literally no, as far as I can remember, no game had ever done anything like that to that scale before. So they get fucking props from me for trying.
That's what
mostly succeeding.
That's what made me like fall in love with BioWare. Those sort of things they did there with carrying over all your, because it was like carrying over a part of yourself because you spent hours and how many years over to each game. It's just like part of yourself was carrying over because obviously that was that's your input, that's your choices, the way you played the game, and that's carrying over your shepherd, and you get to import the appearance and everything. I always chose the standard like default shepherd. I played as male shepherd. I know you played as a female and male, but I normally played as the default male, whose character model was based on a Dutch model.
Mark Vanderloo, I think his name is. Apparently, that's who Zoolander was meant to be a parody of.
Really?
Vanderloo, Zoolander.
Very good-looking guy, may I say. So, but yeah, like. Can
I just interject? It does surprise me that you never played FemShep, given how much of a fan of Jen Hale you are.
I'm a big fan of Jen Hale. I really like Jen, but I never played it. I don't know. Like it just takes.
Is it just because she's too tied up as Bastila for you?
Bastila, yeah. Maybe. I don't know. I never liked FemShep's voice. If I'm going to be brutally honest, I didn't really like it. I always heard it, and it just sounded like it sounded like a woman trying to sound like. Because I know what Jen's. How can I say this without coming off as an
careful?
It sounded like she was putting on a very masculine voice, and it's quite similar. I'm going to compare it to a game I've been playing a lot, which is Apex Legends, and there's a legend on there called Bangalore, and she sounds a lot like FemShep. Was like, yeah, I'm very like I go drills, I go shooting on my spare time. It's like, it just sounds a bit like too, I don't want to say masculine. It just sounds like they're trying to sound too tough, where it didn't sound natural to me. Well, with the shepherd's voice, which was voiced by Mark Meir, it sounded more. It just sounded like him. It was just his voice, really. Like you pretty much. But with Jem Hale, she was putting on a voice.
I have seen other people say that they found FemShep a bit forced.
Yeah, I found it forced. Yeah, I didn't sit right with me.
I think there might be something in that for the first game, but in the second and third, I think she sounds a lot more sort of relaxed in the role.
Yeah, it's a possibility. Like they didn't give a lot of the advertising and promotion was all focused on especially the first and second game. I want to say it was more on the male. It wasn't until people like fan outcry was that they started promoting the female shepherd, but they sort of did it equally. They didn't just focus on her. But because like I remember her default character face on Mass Effect 1, it just looked like a generic like character from the game. It looked like an NPC. It wasn't until I think Mass Effect 3 where they actually like designed it properly, and gave it like sort of character, with the red hair and the freckles and stuff.
And speaking of which, the steelbook from the Mass Effect 3 collector's edition front, man, dude, ship, back.
Yeah,
It's the femship design you're talking about.
yeah.
So if you're listening on audio, go and watch this on YouTube because very unhelpful.
Well, Raw just held up the steelbook. If I could give it just looked like she had bad plastic surgery sometimes as well. It didn't look natural because like the male one was based on the natural person.
No, was that a face scan? Wasn't it?
It's a face scan, so it looked more natural. With the female one, it wasn't. So
it just was like a character creator.
Yeah, it just looked
basically.
She just had dead eyes and a dead face, and I don't know. Maybe it just didn't really gel with me. But yeah, I gotta say, like as much as I love Mass Effect 1, which I think is personally the strongest out of all three, with better story, well building. It was more of an RPG. It felt like a mix between Star Wars and Star Trek, which it had like they all had, like, there was biotic powers, which is pretty much the Force. You can push and pull and create singularities and stuff like that. But it also was very serious. Like if the codexes would go into depth about how dark matter worked and how the Mass Effect relays worked and how how they would travel around.
Zero and everything.
Element Zero, yeah.
It's a very very well done balance of like kind of sort of harder edged sci-fi, more grounded sci-fi, where you explain how things work and why why Element Zero enables like biotics and stuff like this. But then you also actually have like more sci-fantasy stuff like biotics, which is literally space magic, but it's explained in a hard sci-fi way. And it's just the first game, the way they created that universe, fleshed it out and actually made it feel like it made sense, is just probably another reason why the first one's my favorite, because all that stuff was just there. And then they just sort of introduced it as the game went on. And it's also got my favorite arc in the trilogy, which is going from like Vermia to Ilos and then back to the Citadel. That whole arc in the game is so good. At the end of Vermia, where you make a big choice, and then you go to Ilos and speak.
We give spoilers. I mean, the game is old, but I know people probably be playing the Legendary Edition for the first time.
We'll keep it light. I'm not going to go into any detail or anything, but that's just one of my favorite. That's probably one of my favorite sort of like mini narrative arcs in any game. That particular part of Mass Effect 1. Yeah, it's so good.
But like, what I have to say with Mass Effect 2, which I really like, was the suicide mission, building your squad. Doing the loyalty missions was a good thing. That was pretty.
Putting a team together.
Assembling your squad, then doing their loyalty missions, and doing their loyalty missions would ensure their loyalty, but it wouldn't ensure that they would survive, because at the suicide mission there are choices you have to make, which you have to use each of your team's abilities, but you have to choose the correct party member to put in that situation.
Maximize
maximize. And like when they said, like, I remember, I think BioWare was saying that your whole team could die, even Shepard. I was like, oh, no, you wouldn't do that. You're talking about no way. Like, I know in Mass Effect 1 there are certain party members that can die, but in Mass Effect 2 everyone could die, and there are multiple endings, or the same ending but with like slightly with characters
variations.
But when I first played, I painstakingly made sure that each party member was going to survive.
Yeah,
I
did everything in that game to make sure that everyone would survive it.
Yeah, even like there's a section in the game where you lose your crew basically, and your crew, like not in terms of your
like
squad,
support crew, basically
support the Normandy crew. They could all die, and I had to make sure that most of them survived. So it was very tense. I remember playing the last the suicide run, and I was very tense when I first played it. Obviously, when multiple playthroughs, you know what to do, so it's less stressful. You know that these characters are going to survive no matter what. But first time playing it, I was like, well, I can't make a mistake here. Like logically, you would think like there's one scenario where you have to use a biotic, and there's another one character perps in going, well, if I'm a biotic, so I can technically do it. And I was like, well, no, not you. You're a biotic, but you're not a powerful biotic.
You're not the best
Yeah, you're
biotic. I
not.
need the best.
I need the best. And there are two characters that you can choose from who are like supremely powerful in biotics. So you can either choose one of those two. But like you're saying that there are characters who can use biotics, and you could put them in there, and they could die because they're not. They might be biotics, but they're not powerful biotics. So stuff like that, what you got to think about. So that nearly had me. Then I was like, oh, I could no. I got
It
these
is
two.
very
Yeah,
tense doing your first run through it. And you're like, oh my god,
you're actually giving
make the
choices.
wrong choice here, someone's going to
Yeah,
die for good. And that's
yeah.
another thing that kind of made things difficult for BioWare going into Mass Effect 3 because they have to account for all of those decisions as well. And like if like they have to have an outcome in Mass Effect 3 for every single one of those characters that might be dead.
Yeah,
I mean that's making stuff hard for yourself.
Like story wise and technically, it was a great achievement for what they did. I thought it all sort of even though the game's changed over the course of the years, it's still sort of have a cohesive narrative was a remarkable achievement. A lot of people, including myself, was let down with the ending. I wasn't a big fan of it at the time, and there was a movement for them to redo the ending, which they didn't redo it, but they expanded upon the ending.
Extended cut, which I've
Yeah,
never actually seen. I've still only played Mass Effect 3 once.
I loaded a pre-saved game and played through that. And it's just an additional like cutscenes and stuff. Not too much new. They don't change. There's we're gonna go into Three's ending, which was they gave you a multiple choice. It was three endings originally. There was the Synergen, where you merge with Machine. There was Destroy the Reapers, and there was Control the Reapers, which I thought, well, I chose. We'll talk about your choice in a minute. Destroy the Reapers, because that was the whole point. But it also meant destroying all artificial life as well. So all your like the Geth and and ED and stuff, they all die, and basically all technology dies.
Destroys the whole
destroys
relay network.
So like basically the whole all galaxies, all systems will be shut off from each other, which is not a great ending when you think about it. But which ending did you choose?
I did the same. I think some people at BioWare have kind of said over the years, sort of like hinted that Synthesis was kind of what they envisioned the ending being, but I don't think anyone. I think that's the least picked ending. I don't think anyone really liked the idea of that one.
Yeah,
because that kind of like takes away a lot of your agency as well, because then you're forcing the entire galaxy to be basically fused with like artificial intelligence and machines and stuff. There aren't really any good choices, which I think is what annoyed people the most. All of the choices have severe downsides. I do think most people probably went with Destroy, because I was probably the least bad one. But I think what annoyed people, even if they didn't really know how to articulate it, is there wasn't a good ending. It was basically 3 shades of bad ending, really.
It's quite like the saying we were talking about voice protagonists, and I just thought the game has a similar ending, which has a voice protagonist, which was Deus Ex, the original Deus Ex. That had a voice protagonist, JC.
It did,
yeah, and that was that came out a few years before Mass Effect.
2000, I think Deus Ex was.
I think so. Yeah, we could be. Yeah, I think it was, and that had 3 choices as well to end the game, similar to that. So people were like, well, this is just, especially like the older gamers and the people playing on PC, well, this is just that ending just done again.
You've just ripped off Deus Ex.
The thing is with Mass Effect, especially the story, the overarching story against the Reapers, who were the main antagonists. They were kind of written themselves into a corner because the Reapers were so overwhelmingly powerful that there was no conventional way of beating them. And I remember in Mass Effect 3 that there was this early on in the game, it's not much of a spoiler, but you find a thing called the Crucible, which is basically a Deus Ex Machina way to beat them. And it's kind of like funny that they found this.
MacGuffin.
It's just a MacGuffin, just the way of like, oh, we found this one item that can beat the Reapers. Like,
Fancy that.
Fancy that. Just when they're attacking, we happened to find this, which was buried on Mars or something like that. I was like, oh, cool. When I was having like, when I was playing through, I was like, oh God, this is like I was like, oh, they sort of written. I was just expecting clever writing and clever ideas to work their way around of finding a way of us beating them. But when the game is so action orientated, I was like, well, it's just basically arenas where you just go there, defeat waves of enemies, and rinse and repeat, really. So I was like,
with the odd chat sprinkled in.
Yeah, with the odd chat, and you had character moments, which was all based on the Citadel area. It was like the hub. So when they were like, when the red signs, the warning signs were starting to go, I was like, oh man, like the writing's gone from the first two really to more dumbed down sort of action sort of thing. And I was like, oh, how are they gonna? Now, BioWare, I trust BioWare. They're gonna find a really clever way of ways of defeating the Reapers, which they kind of didn't in a way.
Yeah, I think what happened there is because Drew Carpesian, who wrote 1 and I think was the lead writer on 2, if I remember correctly, going back a ways now, he left between 2 and 3, didn't he?
Yeah.
And then someone else, was it Mac Waters? I can't remember now. It's been so long. Someone else picked up 3, and there are narrative threads in 2 that make you think, oh, this is where this is going.
Was that the mission where you recruit Tally? There was something about
dark
that.
energy.
Dark energy, yeah.
Stuff, yeah. We won't go too far into it. But there were definite narrative threads there that seemed to be, well, yeah. that seemed to be hinting at like where the story was going to go in the next game. And then in Mass Effect 3, it's just completely not mentioned. So it makes me think, oh, that was what Drew Carpesian wanted to do.
It was basically
the next writer came in and was like, no, I'm not doing that.
Yeah, it's basically just a generic human sort of like organics versus machines, really. That's what it really came down to. Because I remember like when I first played Mass Effect 1, you encounter Sovereign for the first time, and the speech he gives goes, "We are all one nation. We are all independent. We all think." Like each Reaper was like built up from like from conquered or reprocessed like organics. They all had like a thinking mind. Each one was like a planet on to themselves. Do you know what I mean? I was like, oh my god, how the hell are you going to beat them? Do you know what I mean? They were far.
Each one was like a compound intelligence, essentially.
Each Reaper could take down a fleet pretty easily, and any organic which comes in contact with a Reaper, which would start getting indoctrinated, which was a theme throughout Mass Effect 1. Like Saren was indoctrinated. The matriarch was Venezia. She was they were all indoctrinated. Basically, like organics are susceptible to be indoctrinated. But that sort of went out the window in Mass Effect 3. Really, like they all like.
I think there was one character that was like very obviously indoctrinated and didn't believe it themselves. But I think that was the only kind of thread of that was in Mass Effect 3, if I can remember. But yeah, I mean, we're ragging on Mass Effect 3 a bit, and there are things to pull at and pick at, but there are still some really good moments in that game.
Yeah, it was sprinkled with good moments. Don't get me wrong.
Of course, some of the moments are like genuine, like top of the tree, some of the best moments in the trilogy. But it's just Mass Effect 1 and 2 would like this. Up high, Mass Effect 3 was like this.
For the audio listeners, like Roars is doing
waving my fingers,
waving his fingers like to indicate like the high bar that they were setting. And then
Mass Effect 3 kind of had peaks and troughs, really.
And it was going up and down. So
you had some great moments like Mordin. I mean, we're not going to go into spoilers, but anyone listening that's played it, you'll know what I mean when I talk about the Mordin moment. And then
Mm.
shooting cans with Garrus on the Citadel, that was good.
Mm-hmm.
I never missed a shot. Nobody beats Shepard.
No, I didn't miss. I didn't. I was like, I'm gonna fuck off, Garrus. I'm the best one.
I remember people on forums at the time was like, yeah, I missed this shot and let him have this moment. So I was like, no, fuck that.
Nah,
I'm Shepard.
I'm Commander motherfucking Shepard.
Put this guy in his place. You're number 2, mate.
It was good. Like Garrus was basically like your best friend, because throughout the whole trilogy, there was only 2 party members that were that stayed with you in each game, which was Tally and Garrus. They're both your party members in 1, 2, and 3.
And they could also end up together.
They could end up together, yeah. Unless they died in 2.
Yeah.
Then
nothing can help them then.
Nothing can help. It would just be. So the thing is, I always thought about that. I was like, wow, what if all your pretty much all your party members, apart from I don't know, say Jack, was still alive? Then who's going to populate your party in 3? I was thinking about that. I was like, who they're going to be? Obviously, they compensate.
Just Grunt.
They compensate. They compensated with that. No, he could die as well in 2, can't he? You can get him killed.
Yes.
You can. Yeah. So or you can never open up the cryo. You can.
Yeah, you can leave him in cryo.
Just leave him in cryo. But they did compensate for. There were new party members, obviously James Vega and a body, and Edie with her own body, and
with a camel toe for some reason.
I wonder if they got rid of that in the.
Don't know why they did that, but they did.
Yeah. Why did she? Yeah. Oh my god.
She's a fucking robot, for God's sake.
People who don't know what a camel toe is, just look it up. We're not going to mention what it is.
Just know that it was unnecessary.
Yeah. So there was her, either Ashley or Kalinko.
Yeah, Caden or Ashley would come back. One or the other.
Which in my one was always Ashley, because Caden was just so boring.
It's pretty bland.
Yeah. Oh, I got a headache from my implants.
I ever tell you about the time I accidentally killed somebody because I'm a crazy biotic?
I'm
really you? Because you're so boring.
It's just so
no,
boring.
I'm a stone cold murderer. But that was also another voice actor from Knights of the Old Republic.
Yeah. He played
Carthan
Assi. Yeah. So BioWare would call on their old friends from the old days and get them work again.
That was the one reason I was like hesitant to let him die, because when I first fired up the game and you meet Caden, I was like, oh, it's Carth.
No, I to be honest, I was like, what the hell with this guy? It wasn't even. I didn't have to think about it. I was like, yeah, you're gonna die, man. But yeah, it's
I think I let him live in one playthrough, because I did 4 or 5 playthroughs of Mass Effect 1.
Yeah, and Liara can live as well, so she can live throughout, because she's not a party member in 2, and I don't think you could kill her in 1, but she turns up in 3 as well, which was also a good touch. They also enhanced her a lot, if you know what I mean. Visually,
I mean, they kind of went on that kind of a sexy thing with Mass Effect 3. They did it with Ashley as well.
Yeah, they sexed them up a bit.
They turned Ashley from like a fairly just normalish looking human soldier, albeit in bubblegum pink armor for some reason. And then in Mass Effect 3, she's like a space hottie.
Yeah.
With like full face of makeup and her hair done and everything.
I always, in my head canon, after Shepard died and then came back, she was like, well, I want him back. I'm going to really I'm going to pay for surgery and have a haircut, and put lip balm on and basically make myself up to attract him again. That was in my head canon.
She saw Miranda and she was like, shit, I got to compete.
Yeah, so that's how basically I thought it was. But that's just my own head canon. Yes, there was some great overall. I think Mass Effect, if we ignore the ending, which I think you weren't too bothered about, I
found it a bit underwhelming, but I wasn't that fussed about it, because a lot of the game felt like an ending. Like you had that moment I mentioned with Garrus, that feels like kind of a closing of that kind of friendship thread, if you like. And then there's the whole final mission on Earth, which, again, not going into spoilers, just very light, that the last mission is on Earth. That whole mission feels like an ending, and then you pretty much say goodbye to your whole team at the end of it. So that felt like kind of sort of closing the end of it. And then anything after that was kind of less important, I guess, for me personally, because I felt like, for me, it was like the journey with the characters was kind of,
it's about the journey, not the ending. Yeah.
Well, it was about the characters and the team you built and the friends you made. The real ending was the friends we made along the way.
In this case, I agree with it, because we all got attached to each party member, really, in our own way.
But kind of having those moments with the characters, that kind of closed the story for me a bit. And then after that, I was like, all right, now we can just go and end this thing. So while I was underwhelmed by the ending, I wasn't like mad about it like a lot of people were. And I'm not saying people are wrong to be mad. It's up to every person that plays it to decide how they feel about it personally. Just for me, it was mostly just kind of like, oh, all right.
Oh, that happened.
Yeah.
Okay, go on with my life. I think because a lot of people put a lot of time and the energy and soul and love into this franchise, and for it,
I mean, I get it. I did
an
too.
underwhelming ending kind of felt like a kick in the teeth, which I don't think was BioWare's intention, but I can sort of see, like, because I was like, well, that was a waste of time then. Just sort of went, okay.
I totally get it, because I invested a lot into it as well. But it's just personally, it, like I say, the ending to me felt like that moment when you say goodbye to your friends. So I totally understand people being upset with it. Yeah, I just didn't. It just didn't hit me in that same kind of way, I guess.
Yeah, maybe like it affected. I don't want to say like it's a world-shattering event, but it affected people in various ways. A lot of people.
There was some rage.
Yeah, a lot of people were angry. A lot of people were angry, and they still are. I don't think a lot of people are forgiving BioWare, especially with the follow-up with Andromeda, because that was underwhelming.
And then Anthem.
And then Anthem. And then whatever they're going to do next, which I think is Mass Effect 4, which is going to be a continuation of the current story, which I think
Casey Hudson's left again.
The guy can't catch a break. Jesus Christ, how many times has he left and come back? Which Mass Effect 4 is going to be a continuation of the original trilogy, if I'm
seems to be that.
Yeah.
I think they put out, that's blatantly Liara in that teaser.
I don't think. Well, she can live for thousands of years because she's an Asari, but I don't think they should go there, to be honest with you. I think that's done. That whole, that's a galaxy wide conflict, which I can't see them going back to that or making a good story of it.
Where can they go though? I mean, they tried a fresh new start and it kind of sucked.
The fresh new start. I don't think they went. They went with the idea of exploring a new galaxy far enough. The races you encounter were just similar to the ones you encounter in the Milky Way. They should have gone really out there and really had some weird aliens and cultures.
Well, you say the races. There was only one race.
Is there only one?
Yeah.
Oh shit! Yeah, there were. They were the same ones. Oh, yeah. So one race, which was like
just another set of bipedal aliens.
Yeah. So, and it just didn't feel like you were in another. I want to say another world, but in another galaxy.
You could have just been another star system in the Milky Way.
Yeah,
they definitely didn't. My biggest issue with Mass Effect Andromeda is that it feels like there's a complete lack of ambition and imagination in it, and that ties directly into what you're saying. It doesn't feel like they went far enough. They kind of had the idea of like, what if Mass Effect 1, but the Uncharted planets bit that everyone hated, but good and massive, and you just drive around in your rover and explore massive open worlds. And then they just kind of cut bits back, and the ambition was kind of there in the systems, but then they end up cutting a lot of it out. because there were supposed to be thousands of like procedurally generated planets that you could land on and everything.
That was never going
There
to happen.
ended up being like 10 planets, I think.
10
And,
already established planets. And,
but yeah, there was no ambition in the story. There was no ambition in the setting.
I like
no imagination.
A gripe I have with Andromeda as well is like they went over there in these arcs to sort of explore and settle the new Andromeda galaxy, the Andromeda galaxy. And when you wake up, like when you arrive at the Andromeda system, there's already been settlements and establishments by people from our galaxy. So I was just like, well, I'm playing this like I might as well be in the Milky Way. Like, all the races you encounter were races from our bloody solar system, from our galaxy, from the Milky Way, and
except
they've all been
the Quarians.
Except
no Quarians.
No Quarians were
they
allowed.
got lost out in dark space.
Yeah. So I was just like, oh, so this is just like I'm basically playing Mass Effect 4 in the Milky Way. There was nothing new about it, you know. So it was. I think they played it too safe. They lacked an ambition to really push. They could have pushed the envelope and really gone out there. But
I think the main issue is that it was the first single player game from basically the studio that did the Mass Effect 3 multiplayer. I just don't think they were really equipped to lead development on a new Mass Effect, and that showed in the final project because it was a mess.
It was a mess.
And it's like talked about this on the podcast a couple of times because I played it recently because I was in a Mass Effect mood because waiting for the Legendary Edition. I thought there's no point replaying like the 360 versions now when the remaster is going to be out in a few months. So I picked up Andromeda again, and I'd got about halfway through it when it first came out and dropped it, and I played through it again, finished it this time, and I had to force myself to finish it. It's not a good game. No. It really isn't. The combat's decent, but you get sick of that after a while. Everything else just kind of sucks. I didn't really care about much of the cast. I think Vetra is the only one of the cast that I'd care to see more about.
And she's the female Turian, right?
Yeah, she's pretty cool. The rest of them are just kind of they're fine. They'd be fine in like a 6 out of 10 RPG, but they're not Mass Effect characters. So I don't know where they go from here because it's going to be an uphill battle either way, following on because they're going to have to a canon ending of one of those ones that everybody hated and lead off from that. If they do that, which it looks like they're going to, or if they start afresh again, they're going to actually have to bother this time and show a bit of imagination, a bit of ambition with it. Because I don't think anyone wants another Andromeda.
Yeah.
If they put out another game of Andromeda's quality, I don't think I'd play it.
Yeah. Okay. Any last thoughts? Any last? If you see my hand going, I'm stroking my cat.
It kind of looks like you're like touching up Morgana.
I'm just well, he's a black cat as well, so Morgana's a black and white cat. But any last thoughts? Any last thing you want to say about Mass Effect?
We've tried to be pretty spoiler free with this, while also kind of referencing some of the moments we loved throughout the series. If you haven't played it and you've always been kind of curious, grab the Legendary Edition. It's like 50 quid, 3 massive games, keep you going for weeks. Definitely try it.
Includes all the DLCs from each game as well,
except for Pinnacle Station.
Oh shit! What from the first one?
Yeah, it's not on there.
Oh,
apparently they lost the source code to it, so they couldn't do anything with it. But it wasn't that. It was meh anyway. So it wasn't great.
How many DLCs was there in the Mass Effect 1? Was it
for Mass Effect 1? There was Pinnacle Station and Bring Down the Sky. Bring Down the Sky was good. That was the Bacterian terrorist.
Bacterian's just the one. Yeah. Oh, okay. That's
everything else is there, even all like the armor and weapon packs and everything. All that stuff's in there. Bring Down Pinnacle Station is the only piece of content that isn't there.
Yeah.
So yeah, check it out if you've always been curious but never got into it. They are even 3. as we said, it's still a very good game. It has some issues, but all three of them are very good games. 1 and 2 especially.
Yeah,
And,
1 and 2. One thing I want to say about 2, and I think we both always mention this when we have our discussions about Mass Effect, especially when we have a few drinks, is Mass Effect 2's seeing, like, after each mission there's sort of like a
mission summary screen.
Summary.
God, I hate it so much.
I really hated that. I was
So,
like, why? It stops the flow of the game and it makes it more like it's.
It makes it feel more like a mission-based action game. That was if they'd have done nothing else with Mass Effect 2 in this remaster, but taken those screens out, I would have been over the moon. They could have left the game entirely as it was, but taken those out. But it's just like the first game just flows. Like you finish a mission, cutscene, and go straight into the next sort of story beat. Mass Effect 2, you finish a mission, then you get just a static screen with the elusive man smoking a cigarette and telling you everything that you did in that mission. So I know I did it. I know I did that. I did it. You don't have to tell me. And then you have to like click through it, and then you're on to the next story beat. And I hate it so much. I don't know why those are in there. They suck.
Yeah. But besides that, great game.
It is a fantastic game.
Great game. Yeah. Great.
I think Eurogamer gave it a 10 out of 10 at the time. And I'd probably still say yes. I think they gave one a 7 out of 10, and that's just wrong.
Yeah, well, it's because it's a new IP. I think, they were. Did they have any issues with it? Was it buggy?
I can't remember. I think there were some performance issues.
The combat was, I remember, being really janky.
It was, but you could really exploit it as well because powers had individual cooldowns. This is something else I rant about as well. Powers in Mass Effect 1 had individual cooldowns, so you could use all of your powers once, and then they'd each have their own cooldown timer. Mass Effect 2 use one power, all of them go on cooldown. So in Mass Effect 1, if you were like playing as a biotic, you could use lift to take someone off their feet, and then you could use push to throw them. And you can't do that in Mass Effect 2. You have to ask one of your team to do one of them. So you have to push, and then you have to ask them to lift, or the other way around. And I hate that. I don't know why they did that. I would have rather they had individual cooldowns. But other than that, great game.
Great game. Except for when enemies literally run at you. Like kamikaze, just like, enemies are everywhere.
I will destroy you.
Just like shooting at them. Well, oh, Jesus Christ, they just run at you.
That's another thing. If you're going to play these games, get used to hearing enemies are everywhere and I will destroy you, because you'll hear it a lot.
The enemy AI wasn't very good.
It's like the equivalent of Xenoblade Chronicles 2. Think you forgot about me, or whatever the hell that guy says. I've forgotten now. There's like battle callouts in that just go every 10 seconds.
Okay.
Don't forget me.
Well, yeah, but I think we've covered everything. I mean, we could talk more, but it would talk about spoilers and stuff. So I think we're not gonna go into too many. We're not going to go into any specific details. We want you guys to experience the game, especially now with the remaster. And if you've never played Mass Effect, pick up a copy and play them. Like, they're really good. You get to carry over all your saves from one game to another, all your progress, everything.
Yeah, so we're not on commission or anything, but go out and buy it.
Yeah. I mean, it's playing 1 through to 3 will feel like one big long story. So I recommend doing it. Go and do it. What are you waiting for?
You fancy a big sci-fi space epic? Go and get it. Because that's what it is.
That's what it is. But I think we're going to leave the this podcast now. Anything you would like to add? That, Mr. Ross? What? Sorry, you finished your Quantum Break Let's Play.
I did
the other day.
Yes.
So what's up? What's the plans? What are your plans for more content, Ross? Have you got any ideas?
I had another Let's Play that I was going to get started on, but I'm going to put that on the back burner for a bit. I'm probably just going to do some quick look videos in the next sort of week or two.
Any exploring game passes or anything, or just
some stuff like that? I'm just going to see what I've got and what I want to make a video of. There might be a week or so before my next video goes up, but I'm going to throw some random stuff up for a while. just
Cool.
get a few more different things on the channel.
Yeah. But I still been playing. I still got to finish Star Wars Battlefront 2. I've left that on the back burner and neglected that. So that still needs to be finished. I'm obviously still doing our live streams on our Twitch channel or Game with Chums. Check out like Apex. I'll be doing a live stream of Mass Effect 1 on there as well. So please have a watch if you want to see what it's like and the visuals. And if you want to buy it yourself, you can watch that, make your own decisions. But yeah, hopefully soon we'll be able to record together and especially do videos outside, and that probably won't be until very much at the end of the year, but it's getting there. But yeah,
E3 next month. We're going to be halfway through the year. Where has it gone?
Maybe I'll do a live stream of my reactions to that. I could put that on our Twitch channel and put a little box and have me watching that. But
Paulie C reacts live.
Paulie C reacts live. Maybe I'll have Mr. Raws on there on Discord and we can both watch it together. Or even he can even have his own little. We can both be on it. We don't know. We'll see. See what we can figure out. But yeah, well, thanks for listening. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you again in another 2 weeks. And yeah, see you around, guys. Bye-bye.